What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. So today we're doing Scarlet and Violet Paldea Evolved Top 10 list. I worked very hard on making this, did some cool edits, talking about what I think is going to be the top 10 cards. I had a lot of fun. Shout out to Justin Basil for the pictures and everything that we used. But yeah, today how we're going to rank these cards is I'm going to rank them on what I think we will use them more often, or how often are these cards going to be used. To me, that makes a card in the top 10, right? How often will these cards be used? And that's what I based my ranking on, top 10. Not just how busted they are, all that kind of fun stuff, but how really realistically will we see these cards be played. And so that's what I did today. Looked at those cards, every card from Scarlet and Violet Paldea Evolved, and said, okay, these are my top 10 cards, and see how it kind of worked out. There might be some disagreements, of course, like always, but this is my list, and I think I've looked into a lot of cards, and I think this is really good. So yeah, let me know what you think. We're going to have a lot of fun today, talk about top 10 cards, breaking them down, talk about how we can play them in the future, and what we can use them in different decks now. But guys, let's watch top 10 countdown right now. Honorable mentions. Alright, so to start off the list, we have three, honorable mentions that didn't make the top 10, but I definitely think they are worthy of talking about. And that, first off, it's going to be the Wings of Unity Pokemon. It's kind of three different Pokemon in one different type. We start off with the Wings of Unity. I think it's really interesting. They attack us 20 damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile that has Wings of Unity. Obviously, it synergizes very well. You got three different variants. Like I said, you got 1, 2, and 3. This is the big one, the Flamingo. It has, the same like everybody else. You got the other 3, right? So you have 3 different Pokemon that have the Wings of Unity, but this is the big reason. Flying Flock, when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may search it for 3 Flamingo, reel them, and put them in your hand. It kind of guarantees you the 60 because you can research them away, discard them. And I think it is a little bit of a gimmick. You only have 12 outs for it. If you discard 10, you're only doing 200 damage. Not very strong. It is a basic Pokemon, so it can ramp up very quickly. But without cards like Battle Compressor, and I think that's the big one, Battle Compressor, you have to manually find these Pokemon and then discard them. I don't think the deck's going to be very good, but I definitely want to mention it for this top 10 list. Alright, so next on the list is going to be Wu-Chain EX. Now, I love grass Pokemon, I love them a lot, but this deck, being in the top 10, every card on the top 10 has to be played multiple times. And Wu-Chain's obviously only played in one deck, and that is going to be your behind comeback decks with Iona. It has a really cool attack. It does 6 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon for each prize card your opponent has taken. So it's the bench only, unfortunate. And they have to take multiple prize cards. So, 4? You only do 240. It's still not the greatest. It's 230 HP. Once they take 5, you're doing 300, and that might be enough. But even nowadays, with this new Stage 2 EX Pokemon, you're not even knocking out those, right? So that's a big deal. I do like that you can snipe, take your last 2 prize cards, but I think it's very situational. And 220 for 4, not the greatest either, but I just wanted to include it because it's a really cool card that if you are a fan of grass decks, this could come up. Take your last 2 prize cards, snipe a bench Pokemon, and go from there. So Wu-Chain didn't make the top 10 list, but it is an honorable mention for sure because I love grass Pokemon. Alright, and finally on the honorable mention list, we have Spiritomb, a card that people are most really hyped about to beat Mew, and I see why. It's just out Genesect that says, hey, your Pokemon V, base Pokemon V, they don't have abilities anymore, which is great, right? Genesect can't draw anymore. But I've seen people talk about this card and say, okay, Spiritomb is still not beating Mew, but I think it is enough to help out. If you just drop it against your opponent, they have to deal with that Spiritomb as well as your opponent's active. So I think it is enough to definitely help out. Is it the all-out, be-out answer to Mew? No, just like Drapion, it's not the all-out, be-out to Mew. But the card is still really good. It can slow down Mew in your matchup if you struggle against it. This definitely can help out. But once again, Spiritomb is only for that one matchup. It's only for the Mew because of Genesect. Maybe further along, we'll have more Pokemon V. Actually, we won't. Pokemon V are going away, so only EX Pokemon matter going forward. And right now, the only V Pokemon that really matters is Genesect. So I don't think Spiritomb has a place really in the meta, only if you want to counter Mew and Genesect. It is good in that regards, but I don't think it is going to be really heavily played unless Mew is heavily played. So it's kind of just a reaction kind of card. 10 damage, put this Pokemon back into your hand. It is cool that you can return it if you do start it, but I can't see Spiritomb played in every single deck, and that's why it's still in the honorable mentions.
Number 10.
Alright, so finally we made it to number 10 on my list. It's the 10th, I guess, best card from Paldea Evolved, according to me. I think the list is going to be very heavily influenced by how many times the cards we played. And I think number 10 spot is going to be Luminous Energy. As long as cards attached to Pokemon provides every type of energy, but provides only one energy at a time. If this Pokemon this card is attached to has any other special energy attached to it, it provides one colors instead. So basically, it guarantees you any type of energy. It's kind of like a rainbow, but if you have multiple special energies, it doesn't work. Right now, the obvious energy is with Regigigas decks. You can play it with anything, right? But I think you could also play this in Lugia decks. I think you could like Lumious and like play maybe basic energy or something. We have more special energies rotate out. And there might be some of the decks as well too that could take advantage of it, that play like, you know, maybe a dragon deck or something that could take advantage of this, because it can count as, you know, dragon needs multiple different types, and this could help out in that matchup and count as multiple energies. I think it's a really cool card, and I think we'll definitely see more of it come out in the future, like more different niches and plays with it. Right now, like I said, the obvious is Regigigas, and I think that alone, it's going to boost Regigigas back into the spotlight, and people will start playing it now because we have this energy that counts as any type of energy, but you can only attach it to Pokemon that don't have special energy. So number 10 is going to be Luminous Energy. Card's fantastic, and it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with the future of it.
Number 9.
Alright, so in the number 9 spot, we actually have Baxcalibur, which I know some people are going to be surprised that I have it ranked so low, but the problem with Baxcalibur, it's a stage 2 Pokemon, right? It's going to be hard to set up. Yes, we can rare candy, we have Arita, and I understand that kind of concept, but we don't have cards like Tropical Beach anymore. When Blastoise was really, really good, we had Tropical Beach, and once that kind of rotates out, the only reason why Blastoise is good is because we have Archie's, Ace, and Hole. We don't have those anymore. And I get it, the ability is broken. You can attach as many water Gs as you like, you know, from your hand to one of your Pokemon. That's really, really good. I do think it's going to be a good card, but I think it's only going to be played in, like, certain type, like, obviously it's only played in water decks, right? And I think that's why it's in number 9. The card is really, really good, but it's such a niche, and, like, you're only playing it, like, maybe 1 or 2 different decks, that I don't think it's that strong and deserves that high on the chart. Yes, it's going to be good in water decks, but even then, like, is there other ways you can play water decks? Can you use Melanie Engine instead? Can you use Palkia V-Star? It's going to be really interesting to see. I think it is a good card. Like I said, the ability's broken. It's been broken throughout the ages, but with no Tropical Beach, is that good? We'll have to find out. I definitely think it will definitely make places in cups. Don't count them out, but I definitely don't think it's going to be as strong as other cards that we see on this list.
Number 8.
Alright, so next on the list for me is going to be Meows Corada EX. Once again, a grass Pokemon. I'm super pumped. And I think it is really, really good. I think it's probably the best, like, Stage 2 EX starter Pokemon that we have out of the 3. Discarding a grass energy, putting 3 damage counters on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon is really strong. You can do this multiple times with multiple Meows Coradas. And I think that by itself could be played in different decks just because it can snipe and do, 3 damage multiple times with different grass. It obviously is going to be played in grass decks, of course, but I think it could be a deck by itself, or it could be a support Pokemon, which is great. And the attack is really good too, 100 damage, and if there's any damage counters on it, does 120 more, straight in 220 damage for a double colors attack calls. Obviously, double colors doesn't exist anymore. We have the double turbo energy, and we have other ways of accelerating like grass energies on the field. Gardenia is probably going to be the most used one, but be able to get the grass energies and play that way. And I think, the combination of the ability, like sniping, you have the 100 plus 120, right? You're doing a ton of damage. I think it is a really cool deck, but it's kind of low on the list because of this, right? It's a number 8 spot because, it's a stage 2. You only doing bench damage to bench Pokemon. If it was the active, that would be really, really good, but that's why the card is kind of nerfed that way. It's not as broken. Can you imagine it's like chucking 30s onto the active? Now, this can play with like boss orders. You could do like 30 damage to a bench Pokemon like 2 times, right? 60, bring it to the bench, the active. You're doing 280 damage. Really strong. That hits a lot of good numbers as well. So I think Meows Corada is in a good spot. I like the card a lot. I'm a huge fan of grass Pokemon. And so I'm very, very excited to see Meows Corada and see what the future is with this deck, with the card, and what decks you build with it.
Number 7.
Alright guys, so the number 7 spot we have Fortress EX. Now I love this card a lot. It has a really cool ability that can be used in a lot of different decks. You may discard this Pokemon, search deck for 5 grass energies, and attach them to any Pokemon you like on your field. Now the cool thing about this is, yes, you're getting grass energies. You already have like that kind of like exception, right? That rule of like only grass Pokemon. But being able to go to any Pokemon in the field is fantastic. If you want to play Regidrago, sure, slap on a Regidrago. If you want to play this in Meows Corada, sure, get on Meows Corada. If you want to play this in Shaman V-Star, sure, get on Shaman V-Star. And there's probably other combinations that we could know about. The Wuching that we saw earlier, that could use it, right? And that could power it up. It kind of combos together with that card. So there's a lot of different grass, not even grass, but like different combinations that we could do with Fortress EX. And later on, we'll learn about a card. You probably know what it is. Let's go partner very, very well with this Fortress EX. You knock it out, and then you play this other card, and it synergizes so well. And so I'm excited for that combo. But unfortunately, it is a EX Pokemon. You give it 2 prize cards. You're going to go down. And you have to be able to take a knockout as soon as you do this. Because you're going to take a knockout. You're gonna knock yourself out. Give your opponent 2 prize cards. And then you have to be able to retaliate and take 2 prize cards after that. Because if not, your opponent can take another 2 prize cards because they have a Pokemon in the active spot. So I think Fortress EX, great card. I like the ability. It's really a strong attack. We don't care about that. But just be able to get 5 grass energies is a lot. As a broken energy accelerator. And I can't wait to test the Fortress EX.
Number 6.
Okay, in the number 6 spot, we actually have Luxray, which is very interesting as a Stage 2 Pokemon. The other Pokemon are not going to be mentioned at all, but Luxray has this really cool ability. Vibrant Flash, once your turn, if you're behind no prize cards, you may put this Pokemon onto your bench. Fantastic. You have this attacker that come out of nowhere, come down, and start swinging. It's kind of interesting to talk about it now, but there's a card that synergizes very, very well that we'll see later on in this video. That makes it where you can do 180 damage out of nowhere. You do 20 damage to yourself, but 180 damage, I mean, this could be your Lugia counter. If your struggle gets Lugia, you just knock out Lugia. It's a single prize Pokemon. They have to deal with it, of course. So I think that's a really, really good card. It could come out of nowhere, and as long as you play this other card that we're going to talk about, you'll see why Luxray is such a strong Pokemon. Just be able to come out of nowhere, 180 damage is solid. You're Stage 2. You can play multiple Luxrays in your deck as well. There's no, there's no limit of only playing just one. And I've seen this played in so many different variants of decks already in the other meta that we have. I've seen people play Guardian. I've seen people play Lugia. So there's, already 2 big decks that are playing Luxray. And I imagine this will continue. You can play any deck. You can play this card in any deck that plays this other card that we'll talk about later on in the video. But just people coming out of nowhere, Stage 2, 180 damage, very solid. Here for weakness on a bunch of Pokemon. So I'm excited for Luxray. It's an attacker that come out of nowhere. But we'll see what's next.
Number 5.
Alright, so at number 5, we're halfway there. It's going to be Chinpow EX. Really cool water support Pokemon. It has the ability to search deck for 2 water energies, put them in your hand, and it has the Hail Blade. It discard any number of basic water energies from your Pokemon. This attack does 6 damage for each card you discard it in this way. Earlier we talked about Baxcalibur, how it can be played, and this can be played with Baxcalibur. You can, just load a bunch of energies onto this Pokemon. There's another card that came out as well too, Superior Energy Retrieval, that gives you 4 energies back out. That's a guaranteed, 4 energies to do 240 damage. But the problem with this Pokemon is that it's 220 HP, which is kind of low in this meta now, which I know it's weird to say 220. So it's going to get knocked out and immediately come back into your turn, most likely, if your opponent is set up, which is kind of unfortunate. But being able to get 2 water energies out of your deck is going to be really, really strong. This sort of combine well with decks that play like Greninja and stuff like that. Obviously, this could play in Palkia. It's going to have a research as a Palkia. And you can, use Palkia V-Star onto a Chinpow EX, which is great. You get 3 energies on it. Then you get tax return. That's 240 out of nowhere, which is really, really good. You can't Melanie to it because it's not a V. But discarding base water G from your Pokemon doesn't have to be from Chinpow. It could be from anybody, which I think is a really, really cool thing. Can you imagine if it said any energies? Whew, that'd be really, really good. But I think the card is still like a good late game attacker, right? If you have a bunch of energies on the field, you've saved up your energies, and all of a sudden you go Chinpow, you do like discard 6. And I think that's another thing to talk about is you need at least 5, 6 energies to take knockouts which is a lot in this meta. Yes, we have Superior Energy will come back. We have cards like Caliber, but there's other cards that we're going to talk about that's going to disrupt this deck. But I think it's still very, very strong enough to be in the number 5 spot just because the utility of getting 2 water energies, it's going to be really good. And you play it in countless different decks, right? Not just Caliber, not Palkia, but there's other decks that will take advantage of this because you can combine this with Greninja and then use other stuff with it. So I'm interested to see what all holds out with with Chinpow EX. Really cool card. I like the ability, especially for 2 water energies, really good. The attack is, it is good, but it needs a lot to be very, very strong. But it's probably the most hyped EX coming out of the set. All right.
Number 4.
All right, so number 4 spot, I was contemplating making Chinpow number 4 and Jet Energy 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. The reason why I made Jet Energy number 4 is it can be played in any deck. And not only that, it's a free retreat. It's like a free break a Pokemon for bench to deactive, right? As long as card attached Pokemon and fights colors energy, whatever. But when you attach Pokemon for your hand to one of your bench Pokemon, switch that Pokemon to your active Pokemon. This is fantastic. I think it's better than what people think it is. It might not be played at first, but I think the utility of this card is definitely something that we haven't really seen before. We've seen Warp Energy, and that's maybe the closest thing. But let's take Lost Blocks, for example. You use Comfy, look at top 2, whatever. You retreat, whatever. Now you miss a switch card. Well, now you have Jet Energy. You can bring a Pokemon from the bench to the active and use another Comfy. So it's like another guaranteed switch effect, and then you have the energy from later on. Against control decks, you can use Jet Energy to get your Pokemon to the active spot that was boss up. So I think Jet Energy has a lot of options that we really haven't seen before. Against Lugia, it's a retreat option. Lugia really doesn't have good retreat cards, but Jet Energy, yeah, it's good to go. Now the downfall is it has to be from your hand. But I think being able to guarantee you an out against control decks is really good. Maybe I just am so nervous about control that this is why I'm ranking it so high. But be able to get a switch out is really, really good. It counts as colors, which is most decks need color synergies. And just be able to include an energy that counts as, a way to retreat is fantastic. I love this card a lot. I can't talk enough about it. I know a lot of people probably don't have it as high on the placement in their top 10 list, but I really do like this card a lot. I like this really cool utility card. I like that it can play to anything. So yeah, number 4 we have Jet Energy, really strong card. I think it's definitely going to be underrated, but I know it's really high on the list. Really, Josh, number 4. Yeah, I think it's number 4 for me.
Number 3.
All right, so number 3 spot might be another surprising card, and that is Squawkabilly EX. I think it's a fantastic card that, every time we've seen a card like this, it's always played. The Dedenne, the Crobat, the Shaman, the Uxie, any kind of Pokemon that's had this kind of effect, it's been played multiple times throughout its creation, right? It's been played in multiple decks. Just be able to Ultra Ball for this Pokemon, put it in your hand, put it down, draw 6. The setup consistency, the amount of setup and consistency it adds to your deck by playing this one Pokemon is fantastic. How many times have you gone turn 1, your hand's dead, you can't do anything because you can't play the supporter card, but you have Ultra Ball, now you get Ultra Ball for Squawkabilly EX, play it, discard it, and you're good to go. Not only that, it actually has a really kind of decent attack that I haven't really talked about before, but Psych Up does 20, and you attach 2 basic energy cards from your disc pile to one of your bench Pokemon. So not only can you use it to draw cards, you can discard energies with its effect and then attach them to your bench Pokemon. And, if you do this turn 1, a lot of decks can't really knock you out turn 1, 160. It's low, I get that. But late game, you can collapse Stadium it off, you can Volo it off. I think Volo works on it. Am I wrong? I'm sorry. But I know Collapse for sure. You can use other cards like Thornton to get rid of it. You can use Penny to pick it up. So there are different ways to pick up this Pokemon. And I think the consistency of just hey, I'm putting down Squawkabilly. I'm going to add this one card to my deck that gets me out of a terrible turn 1. Now, you can only use this on your first turn, which is a big thing. And I think this is how they're finally going to find, okay, this is perfect. Crobat, okay, you draw, you have 6 in your hand. Okay, that wasn't very good. Dedenne, you can, discard your hand, draw. That was really, really good, right? Shaman, obviously broken. And so I think this is the happy medium. You can only use it on your first turn. You discard, draw 6. You have the Dedenne effect, but you can only use it one turn. So I think it's like a happy medium that everybody's going to love, and going to be able to use, and I think it's going to be played in multiple decks throughout the years. So Squeak EX, number 3, just because of how many different decks will play this card.
Number 2.
Alright, so we're down to our last 2 cards. No surprise what they are going to be. But at number 2 spot, it's going to be Reversal Energy. We talked about Luxray earlier, how, it synergized something. Well, it synergizes fantastically with Reversal Energy. As long as Pokemon is attached to Pokemon of various colors. But if you have more prize cards than your opponent, and this card is attached to an evolution Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box, this card provides every type of energy, but only provides 3 energy at a time. This card's good. It's good. Be able to play a Stage 2 deck that, that doesn't have a rule box, so we're limited. I get that. But I think the amount of, that decks are going to take advantage of this throughout its career, it's going to be fantastic. We've already seen this playing in Gardevoir. Obviously, you can't attach it to a Gardevoir EX because it has a rule box, but the regular Gardevoir takes huge advantage of it. All of a sudden, you're having 3 extra energies on it, which is fantastic. We see how good this is in Luxray, and there's going to be other Stage 2 decks that are going to take advantage of this, and it doesn't have to be Stage 2. It could be Stage 1. It says any evolution. So the amount of combination that this card can be played with is going to be insane. In Zoroark decks, you have this really cool effect, right? You can Zoroark it to anybody, attach a reversal, and you're good to go, right? Because it is an evolution. So I do think this card has been fantastic. It's going to be a 4 of in some decks. It's going to be a 1 to 2 of in some decks. You can even play this in Lugia for Archeops if you want to, for your own Luxray, right? Gardevoir can take advantage of it. Even Palkia could use it, technically, for B-Barrel or something. So there's a bunch of different decks that takes advantage of Reversal just right off the start, right? Reversal, it seems fantastic. I think the card's very, very strong. The only downside is it doesn't go to Rule Box Pokemon, but I think that would be broken. Can you imagine? But yeah, any evolution Pokemon can use it, get 3 type energies. Really good. I think the card's super strong. It comes out of nowhere. You can use the next card as well with this card in combination to kind of disrupt your opponent, plus take huge knockouts and comeback mechanics. So yeah, number 2 spot, Reversal Energy, of course. And number 1, you know what it is, but here we go.
Number 1.
Okay, and in the number 1 spot, of course, we have Iona. Iona is the most hyped card come out of the set. The 4 is worth $1 million. The card is just really, really good. People hated Marnie. People hated N. And Pokemon said, you know what? What happens if we put the 2 together and they had a baby, and now we do have a baby, and it's Iona. So basically it says, hey, each player shuffles a hand and put them above the deck, then draw a card for each of the prize cards remaining. There's a lot of build-up we've had with this card. Reversal Energy, just like we talked about. If you're behind on prize cards, you can use Reversal Energy plus Iona your opponent to a bad hand, like 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it is. Fortress EX takes advantage of this. You can use Fortress, knock out your Fortress EX, power Pokemon, use Iona, you're good to go. Luxray, you get Luxray out, put the Reversal Energy, Iona, you're good to go. There's a lot of different comeback mechanics that Iona does that it's going to be great. So you're going to see decks play 4 of Ionas. You're going to see people play Iona and Judge as well, too, to take the full advantage of it. So I think Iona, it's going to be played years to come. It's going to be good. As long as this card's in rotation, it's going to be played between a 2 to 4, maybe even 1 of, sure. Decks, the card's really good. I can't say much about it. I think the card's really strong. It's busted for a reason. Yeah, I mean, not much else to say. It's the best supporter card come out of here, for sure. So the number 1, of course, going to Iona. Alright, guys, there we go. So that is my top 10 list from Scarlet and Violet. Paldea evolved. First place, Iona, Reversal Energy, Squawkabilly, Jet Energy, Chinpow, Luxray, Fortress, Meows Corada, Baxcalibur, Luminous, and then cards I just want to include because I think they're really, really cool, is Unified Wings, Wo-Chin, and Spiritomb. So guys, let me know to take up the top 10 list. If you like this kind of format where I talk about cards and have the description underneath it, it's a lot of fun to make. Really cool to figure out how I could do this too. I'm trying to get better at editing videos, of course. But yeah, did I miss any cards? I know I did. I know there's a bunch of cards in here that I didn't include, but like I said before, I think this more went to what I think it's going to be played more so, right? What cards are going to be played more, right? And I think I did a good job of covering cards that we'll see more so of going forward, right? So yeah, if you have any suggestions, ideas, let me know. Once again, this is Scarlet, Violet, Paldea Evolved Top 10 list. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you tomorrow.